there, my name is Jean Tiberio, and I'm a nutritionist and a wellness coach. Welcome to episode 295 of Healing Outside the Box, which I'm calling How to Conquer Weight Loss Plateaus. Now, I've got a couple of announcements before we get started. I am coming up to episode 300, and I've made a decision to stop the new episodes at 300. But since I still own the audio property, I will probably refurbish some of the content on hot button issues I'm interested in, and I'll put it up on my website, which I am keeping. The primary reason is that my respiratory muscles are getting weaker, and I guess I'm officially in chronic respiratory failure. Normally, it's difficult to last more than 5 to 10 minutes without the additional oxygen. I may start to gasp for breath before the end of the sentence, so it would be hard to go off oxygen for more than 30 minutes of constantly talking. And, of course, the oxygen concentrator makes a very noisy background. This is bittersweet for me because as much as this is hard work, not so much the writing, but the editing, I do enjoy looking into things and putting on my investigating hat for some of these episodes. Another issue is my level of fatigue at this stage. After being up and around for as little as 3 hours, I feel the need to rest. So that makes the podcast editing a time zapper. And I begin to dread putting in so much time to edit the episodes. But once again, I'm not going to stop writing. So my words will be either on social media or my website. And I plan to also do some 3-minute videos showing people how to cook some of my favorite healthy meals, with an assistant for the physical stuff, of course. And speaking of writing, I have more free promo codes for my audiobook, which is a memoir. It just came out about 6 months ago, and it's exclusively on Amazon right now. That means that you can get the audiobook on Audible, but also on iTunes. So if you wanted to go to iTunes, just click the drop-down menu that includes podcasts and music, and click on audiobooks. Then type Helpers Anonymous in the search bar on the store tab. But for a limited time, I'm also giving out promo codes to get the audiobook for free. Just message me on my website contact page, Healing Outside the Box, and add your first name and email, and I will send you the code and instructions to plug it in. You can also DM me on Instagram, Twitter, X, or Facebook with your email address, and I'll send it along. Now, secondly, I have an update on the issue I have been slightly obsessed about, and that's balance of nature supplements. For those of you who do not watch MSNBC, Balance of Nature is basically a scam. They run constant ads using celebrities in their, say, senior years, singing the praises of a bottle of capsules that literally have nothing in them. I once speculated that it's probably ground up watermelon rinds or something they picked out of a dumpster. They're charging people $100 every month for a product with literally nothing in it. There's not even fiber in those things. So here's the news on them, and I'll put it in the show notes. This comes from the Center of Science for the Public Interest. At the end of November 2023, the makers of Balance of Nature have been ordered to stop production and sales of their products until they can come into compliance with FDA regulations. Quote, Balance of Nature's whole food capsules are advertised to imply that they can cure serious diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and multiple sclerosis. End quote. Here's another quote. Balance of Nature, a brand of so-called whole food supplements, fruits, veggies, and fiber and spice, are marketed as a whole health system that supplants some portion of the real whole foods people should be eating to stay healthy. Balance of Nature's Utah-based parent company, EVIG LLC, its manufacturer, Premium Production LLC, and 2 executives have been court-ordered to stop manufacturing and selling the products until they demonstrate compliance with FDA regulations. End quote. This company makes me crazy because they are encouraging people to not eat the fruits and vegetables themselves that many people might find expensive. Then they turn around and charge $1,200 per year for bottles full of nothing. But the good news here is that, as I've heard recently, no one is above the law. Okay, now let's get back to the episode. How to conquer our weight loss plateaus. I think the first thing to do is take a step back and understand why this is happening. In the old days, let's say about 50 years ago, we just assumed that a 3,500 calorie deficit would result in 1 pound of weight loss, and that mathematical equation would be the same for everyone, whether you are 5 feet tall or 6 feet tall, whether you were an Olympic athlete or a couch potato, and it would continue at that level. That's simply not true. If you continue that theory out, say 3 years, if you eat 500 fewer calories every day, you'd lose 1 pound per week or 50 pounds per year. Well, if you take that out 3 years, that would result in a 150-pound weight loss. And we know that just doesn't happen. What happens is much more complicated. And it's all about preventing the starvation that we used to suffer when food was scarce, for whatever reason. Of course, we should be mindful that in certain parts of the world right now, people are starving, primarily brought on by wars. Now, there was a short video about debunking the 3,500 calorie deficit by Dr. Michael Gregor, and I'll leave that in the show notes if you want more details. Several points were made in the video, and I'll add a few of my own. Since we first walked upright, let's say about 200,000 years ago, our bodies were built to prevent starvation at all cost. If there were periods of food shortage, the ones that could adapt and survive were the ones that were around to have children and carry on the gene pool. The adapted humans, if their caloric intake was restricted seriously, would slow down their metabolism to keep from starving. But that's not the only thing going on. Nowadays, when we first begin a strict low-calorie diet, the weight comes off quickly, then levels off and plateaus. So we'll lose weight fast during the first week, but the weight is not composed of only fat. The first week, we will be losing mostly water, as I'm sure most of us know. But the weight loss is never just fat loss. We also lose some lean body mass, or muscle, and it's the lean body mass that burns the most calories. I'll be saying that again. In addition, when we eat less food, we will be eating less salt, so less fluid will be retained. As the weeks go on, we seem to be doing the same caloric restriction with little weight loss to show for it. Part of that is that less fluid is lost as the weeks go on, but in addition, what is usually happening is that our hunger and satiety hormones dramatically shift to favor the hunger hormones. Our appetites kick into gear. We start craving like crazy and cannot help but loosen that strict 1,000 cal per day deficit. It's not our fault, it just is what it is. We eat more without even realizing it. Here is another factor. Once you lose weight, you become a smaller person. A smaller person simply burns fewer calories, both while walking and while sleeping. A bear will need to eat more than a dog, will need to eat more than a hamster. We would never question that. And we are just animals walking upright, Nispa. I remember on one occasion when I was doing nutrition counseling for a husband and wife team, the wife asked me why her husband can eat more than her without gaining weight. I believe I said something like, well, he's a bigger animal. which was followed by two people both looking annoyed with me, which was followed by me attempting to explain what I just said. If we see the body as a biological machine that runs on thermal energy, i.e. calories, it will take more calories to run a bigger machine. We now know that we burn about 70% of our total calories just running that machine at rest. We used to think it was 50-50, but now it's about 70% calories burned as part of our BMR, or basal metabolic rate. It takes calories to pulse oxygenated blood through our body, to keep our bodies running at 98 degrees in the winter, to replenish all of our cells, to think great thoughts, or maybe not so great thoughts, to breathe in and out. And on a cellular level, cells need nutrition to do whatever their mission is. So given that, fat cells are basically storage cells and need less energy to run them. Muscle cells need the most energy or calories to do what they do. A more muscular man will burn more calories walking than a petite woman would. And males, generally speaking, have a higher percentage of muscle mass at the same weight. That is simply the case. So at complete rest, or when we're sleeping, muscular men burn more calories in addition to burning more calories when walking or running. That is the truth behind all of this. So, whatever are we to do if we happen to be a smaller female or want to be a smaller female? First, a note about what does not work. Liposuction doesn't work because it removes only subcutaneous fat under the skin and doesn't touch the visceral fat around the organs. So you may look better temporarily. It won't help to prevent diabetes or heart disease. You will still need fewer calories to maintain that weight, unless eating habits change post-op to a less calorically dense food intake and exercise is added to the mix. The other thing that won't work long-term is a low-carbohydrate keto diet. The weight we lose is again composed of water, fat, and some muscle mass. As we lose muscle mass, we will need fewer and fewer calories to continue to lose weight. It's just less physically demanding to move a smaller body. So on a keto diet, it's possible to regain all of the weight, but with less muscle mass as a percentage of the total. So fewer and fewer calories are needed. There's no getting around it. As we lose muscle mass, we will need fewer calories to maintain our new weight, unless we include resistance exercise. And I'll get to that later. In terms of the quality of food, it's not necessarily about eating less food in general, but about consuming food with a lower caloric density. So better quality food, not necessarily less food. So the general recommendation that the experts are passing out is to improve the quality of our food intake and to combine it with resistance training from the beginning. That will prevent you from losing some muscle mass. Or you lose some but gain more. That's the goal. There's another piece to this puzzle that scientists are talking about now, and that is how our microbiota play a role in many of our body functions. Our digestive health, our metabolic health, and even our brain health may be in part dependent on the species of microorganisms in our gut. For example, I read somewhere that most of our serotonin is produced by our healthy gut bacteria. And serotonin is a nice hormone to have around. We grow an orchestra of microorganisms that will respond to the quality of food that we eat. Researchers are finding out that if we increase our probiotic and prebiotic foods, it has a positive effect on long-term weight loss. Now, when we say probiotic, we're talking about fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, miso, etc. Prebiotics are plant foods, and the ones we recommend can go by G bombs. And they are: G is for greens, especially dark leafy greens, broccoli, and cabbage. B is for beans, and that includes all types of beans, lentils, chickpeas, etc. O is for onions, all kinds. M is for mushrooms, the food kind. B is for berries, especially the blue, purple, black ones. And S is for seeds, in particular pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds in the form of tahini paste. So improved gut microbiota in general includes more produce, fruits, especially berries, as we've mentioned, seeds and nuts, and of course beans. In addition, the act of simply eating less meat will improve our gut microbiota diversity as well. And this by itself will help us lose the weight and keep it off. So we know now that it's the quality of the calories, not just the amount of the calories, that is effective. There is a favorite quote of mine, which goes something like this: "The trick is not to mind." That was spoken with a straight face by a guy named G. Gordon Liddy. He was one of the Watergate clowns that would be considered crazy even by today's standards. One day, he put his finger through a flame of a candle on the table. When asked by the guys he was with to explain the trick involved in this stunt, he replied that the trick is not to mind. I guess the point was that there was no trick. He just intentionally burned his finger. That story reminds me of a conversation I had with a client who wanted to lose weight but was frustrated that it was turning out to be difficult. She said, "I just need it to be easier." My response to her went something like this: think about the accomplishments in your life that you are proud of, whether it be raising amazing children, getting that college degree, maybe even while working, making it to the finals of a piano recital contest, or whatever you are proud of accomplishing. Was any of that easy? I'm guessing that it wasn't. Our accomplishments take effort. Losing weight and keeping it off falls into that category. So perhaps the trick is not to mind after all. Here's a quick list of the points that I've mentioned. Number 1, improve the quality of the food by increasing fruits and vegetables to a minimum of 5 servings per day. Number 2, limit meat consumption and fast foods. The less the better. Number 3, add a probiotic such as yogurt or sauerkraut, and remember the G-bombs to make our gut bacteria healthy and happy, which makes us healthy and happy. Number 4, start a weekly exercise regimen that includes both aerobic exercise and strength training or resistance exercise, maybe 3 times a week, or whatever works for you. Number 5, engage in some form of meditation, relaxation, yoga, nature walks, at least once per day. Number 6, in addition to the meditation, maybe engage in mindfulness exercise during eating and listen to hunger and satiety cues. Now, those are just a few of the techniques that may be helpful. You can certainly fine-tune your own plan that fits within your lifestyle and family needs, and something you might be able to adopt long-term. If you need some assistance, you can contact me on my website contact page, which is Healing Outside the Box. That's all I have for you today. Be well, and stay tuned for another episode of Healing Outside the Box.